So she should use that to her leverage when she makes these public cries for support when she is going to be withholding her support for these bills.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? What is this okay? You have one of the largest news shows on YouTube for leftist politics, and you refuse to criticize them. You just say, okay, you say, I don't care. What is this? Do you not have any values that you stand upon?
No. I don't. We done?
Let's be done.
All right, guys. I am so excited for this. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I have to say, Sam Seder is an absolute daddy, first of all. I would absolutely allow him to buy me a drink. I need to fix this real quick. If he's smooth enough, we'll see how things go. How the night progresses. There we go. But hey, Taylor Latte Boy. What I will say is that off the bat, I was like, maybe I could cover this debate like tomorrow or like next week sometime. What's my go-to drink? Whiskey neat. But I saw that the title for this debate is a lot of apples. Thank you for the $5 dono. Sam debates electoral politics with a Jimmy Dore fan. the fucking disrespect. The disrespect is amazing. He doesn't even say his name. Not even on the rocks? Not even on the rocks. I like whiskey. I like my whiskey neat. Oh, God. You'll see why it's extra savage in a second. Oh, I'm sure I will. Wait, what is it? What is it? We're watching a debate between Sam Seder and Jackson Hinkle. Hey, Fox of Fate. You will not be disappointed. I am so excited. I am so excited. Oh, God. Also, I'm sorry you have a headache, Felicity. I have a caffeine headache at the moment. All right. Here we go, y'all. I'm excited. It's true. It's true. I feel kind of bad that I even properly named Jackson Hinkle in the title. Oh, sorry, Jackson Dinkle. My bad.
It was. I got IM'd. We take IMs every day, as you know. I got IM'd that a guy named Jackson Hinkle wanted to debate me. And so we have a fairly open door policy here. People can call in at any time. I suggested that he could call in, or if he wanted to debate me, he could email at majorityreporters@gmail.com or tweet at me. And within an hour after the show was over, that segment was clipped, I think by Jackson, and he wanted to, and he said to debate. And so we set it up. And since that time, Bradley, put up that thing that you just gave me. Over that time, he has been very excited to debate. Those are, I think, from Twitter over the past week. Yes. Oh, please bring them on.
Oh, he's such
so
a
I want to welcome
boy.
to the program Jackson Hinkle. Do we have him?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. Let me start my camera.
Okay. And so, Jackson, thank you for coming on today. I should say also you were very gracious because where can I get him up here on the screen? Do we have him?
Yeah, he's on.
I've got a weird thing on my stand. Oh, there we go. Okay. So
God, I just want to run my fingers through Sam's hair and solve his tech issues for him.
you sent me an email with some dates, and I've got some I'm a little jammed up with my kids in the month of February, so I invited you onto the program. You were very gracious about coming on, and I appreciate that. And you wanted to. Now,
Wait,
is
why,
it
why is it so? Why are they focusing on this for so long? Okay, it does
case,
get normal.
Bradley, you can take that down. I was told that you are a communist, and so I don't know what you got going there. And so I was told that you are a communist, and that you wanted to come on, and you emailed me that you wanted to debate. This is what you wrote. Would love to focus the discussion around your support for the Squad. I personally believe the Squad and progressives in Congress are sellouts who have abandoned virtually every aspect of progressive principles over the last couple of years. Let me know if you'd be down to discuss this. And I was a little surprised. Are you all right? Can you see the...
Yeah, the thing just moved, so I got to fix it.
Okay. All right. So let me just, so that my audience can know who you are. You've got a show called The Dive, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And are you, and you are a communist, yes?
I'm a Marxist-Leninist, anti-imperialist, and American patriot.
Okay. All right. And
Just say yes.
because I have to say, I was a little bit surprised by what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, like Sam Seder right now is sporting like a a Wolverine type beard and mustache, and goddamn is he making it work for him. Holy shit.
Uh-huh.
As a Marxist-Leninist, I guess, but because it seems a little bit focused on electoral politics from my experience with folks who refer to themselves as communists, but if that's what you wanted to do, that's fine with me. So let's just start with the idea of the premise that the Squad and progressives in Congress, presumably the Democrats, right, are sellouts. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that, and why I think they're not progressive, because that's the other big thing here, is I think that there's 3 or 4 major issues I have with them. Number one being that they could have blocked the passage of...
No, Bald Christopher. He's very pro-America, except for all the things America does.
a large number of must-pass bills, and they chose not to.
Also, everyone go follow Bald
Those,
Christopher.
I think they could have, leveraged their power for concessions, policy concessions. The second thing is I think that they have been directly voting for anti-progressive bills and measures. In some cases, they've even introduced these themselves. They've acted at the behest of the Democratic establishment on multiple occasions, giving their own, campaign funds to corporate Democrats. And the third or fourth thing is basically staying silent and giving Joe Biden support in the face of his pro-war.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Also, breaking news, everybody, in case you missed it. Matt Gaetz is 100% dead to rights. He is Dunzo. Dunzo Washington. Okay? That's his new name. All right? If you guys haven't seen this, there's a new piece coming out of the Daily Beast tonight, essentially being like, hey, we found another witness to a phone call where Matt Gaetz was told that he slept with a 17-year-old. So, yeah, he done, everybody. I mean, look at this. Here it is. It's not just Joel Greenberg who claims he informed Matt Gaetz that the two men had been paying to have sex with a 17-year-old girl. There was a witness in the room who heard the call, and the witness just pleaded guilty to other charges. So, as part of the plea deal, this witness flipped on Matt Gaetz. Motherfucker going to jail, baby! We fucking got him. We fucking got this dastardly looking motherfucker. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Hang the banner, everybody. In fact, I feel like this is. I feel like this is a good time for this. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. We fucking got him, boys. And Matt Gaetz, get fucked. But not in that way, obviously.
Anti-worker agenda.
Now we just need Mr. Girl to get caught.
So let me ask you this, because I'm trying to get at. I mean, we'll get to those the specific things, but when you say sellout,
I don't know. When you have two witnesses, one of which is flipping on because of a plea deal, I don't know. He might be dead. He might be dead to rights.
I mean, this is the part that I'm not that I'm unclear on. What do you think they've gotten from this? Like when you sell out something, right? I mean, you're what are they getting?
I think they're getting preferential treatment from the Democratic establishment. I think the Democratic establishment is playing softball politics with them rather than going as hard as they could against the squad. I think the media has treated them relatively favorably ever since they have started to act in line and kind of toe the line of the Democratic establishment. I mean, they've been able to receive donations and connections with George Soros and George Soros's family. for not only their campaigns, but associated ventures like the Sunrise Movement. So I think those are just a few of the ways that they have
gotten preferential treatment from the Democratic establishment. In what way? Because as far as I can tell, like, for instance, AOC, Katie Porter's not exactly in the squad, but I imagine you include her in this group. They got actually the opposite of preferential treatments when it came to committee positions. Committees are the most important thing in terms of exercising power. They literally censured Ilhan Omar. They attempted to do it almost.
I think in some regards they have been attacked, and there is going to be that friction there. But in some ways, Sam, because you're trying to act like there's no ways that they've been treated preferentially.
Just tell me. I mean,
they were invited to create dialogue with the Biden administration on a whole host of policies and different policy arenas to influence the Biden agenda. Although I don't think they've really done that, with the exception of maybe climate change. They've also, Ilhan Omar, for example, she was made whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We also have Ilhan Omar introducing bills that have already passed the House, thanks in part to Nancy Pelosi's support. So there's a lot of ways in which they have received preferential treatment. But what I want to get at is what they have supported.
Let me just, let's just have a dialogue here. You say they get preferential treatment. I'm trying to figure out what it is that they're sold out for. What did they get paid in? And you said preferential treatment from the establishment. I listed things where they got the opposite, but you're telling me that Ilhan Omar is named the whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and they had the opportunity to negotiate with the Biden administration. That's the preferential treatment they got over other members of Congress?
Well, I mean, the de facto position for progressives would be for the Democratic establishment to roast them at the stake every single opportunity they get, because they're there to directly, supposedly, challenge the Democratic establishment, replace them with people who align with, whatever the squad is the Justice Democrats were supposed to be. So, yes, I mean, that is the goal here. And it would make sense that the Democratic establishment should be trying to go as hard as they can against them at every single chance they get. And they haven't done that. They've given them preferential treatment to what you would expect from a group of individuals who are supposed to be unseating them.
So you're saying that the Biden administration actually conceded on all of those things, as opposed to, I mean, I don't know what you mean by roasting.
I don't think they conceded. I don't want to focus too long on this because this isn't the crux of the argument. The crux of the argument, what I emailed you, was about
Why does Jackson always sound like he's yelling?
Support for the squad when I think that they are not progressive. Okay. But yes, the Biden administration
I still can't see the emotes, so I just see a bunch of people typing crab in chat, and it's making me happy.
Listen, we're just going back and forth here. All right, you've made your assessment that they're getting preferential treatment because they're not being roasted by the establishment.
It didn't work for me.
And then you're saying that they're getting money from George Soros?
Yes.
In the form of giving it to the Sunrise Movement?
No, Ilhan Omar received direct contributions.
How much from George Soros?
She received, let me pull it up here. She received between George Soros, Andrea Soros, and Alex Soros, she received $2,700, $5,600 in 2020, and then in 2018, $2,700 respectively.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize she had received $2,700 in multiple years. And so you're
damn George Soros over here really breaking the bank on Ilhan Omar's. Oh God! Over multiple years.
You're contending that they sold out for over $2,700 from George Soros.
No, if you listen to anything I just said, I named numerous examples in which the squad has been given preferential treatment. To just select that one in particular is very disingenuous.
No, well, you said Soros. So I was just asking in terms of the Soros part. You said Soros was number 4, I think.
I mean, there's more I could go on to list, but again, what I want to talk about here, what you seem to
Yeah, Sam's just like, yeah, go, please keep talking.
not want to talk about, and I can assume why, is
Yeah, Ilhan Omar got shipped half a PS5 one year and half a PS5 the next year. Okay, guys, that's what the Soros Foundation broke the bank for.
your continued support for the squad, who is going along with the Democratic establishment on all these votes they could be blocking to get concessions in return. And in some cases, they're
Jackson
actually
Hinkle is
directly
not a
supporting
serious
anti-progressive measures and bills.
Okay, and there is no doubt that they have taken votes that I agree that I would disagree with in some instances.
A few or a lot?
I mean, a few.
How many is a few? I'm just curious.
I don't have a list of how many votes I don't appreciate that they've taken.
Well, I mean, don't you think?
Oh, Conoclast, you mean Omar can play Elden Ring on PC? Boom, roasted.
I just want to nail you down on this, because don't you think there's a difference between, like, say a few is 2 to 3. Don't you think there's a difference between 2 to 3 bad votes and say like 15 or 20 bad votes?
How many votes did they take in total? And I'll tell you that I would imagine there's probably 25 to 30% of their votes that I would have a problem with off the top of my head.
I would imagine for consequential policy items, there was probably roughly like 60 to 100.
Yeah, look, I don't want to speculate here, but let's just say I wouldn't trust Jackson Hinkle in a room with children, okay?
Consequential policy items that were voted on in this session of Congress 2021 so far. There's obviously a lot of procedural and House rules votes that get voted on every single session of Congress. So far, there's been over 400 votes in this session of Congress, but a lot of those, again, are just on amendments to bills that are eventually voted on or just procedural votes.
Okay.
So you're saying that maybe 20 to 30 out of 60 are bad votes?
30%. I don't know. I mean,
well, you just said 20 to 30 votes out of potentially 60 to 100 were bad. So is that something that you would necessarily support? I mean,
look, and I'm not saying that Jackson Hinkle is a pedophile, okay? All I'm saying is he's probably also not good with children, okay? Like, I feel like he would let like a 3-year-old balance on like a shelf behind him and be like, yeah, that's fine. And then like turn his back while he like continues to stream. The 3-year-old just falls off the top shelf.
I just don't really understand. Why don't you criticize the squad on all of these things? I've heard you criticize them like once and every so often, but you don't criticize them on all of these bad votes. And I don't understand how you plan to hold them accountable.
Well, Rondo, I guess I wouldn't trust you in a room with kids
I mean,
either.
I do. I mean, I don't know if you watch every one of our shows.
Did you criticize them? Did you criticize them when AOC funneled $160,000 to DCCC corporate Democrats after promising not to?
Actually, first of all, I actually didn't criticize that.
Why not?
I'll tell you why. Because I think part of the strategy in which they deployed, and she said, we should say that she did these in incremental ones, right? There was like 2,000s a pop, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They were 5,000.
Okay, 5,000. I think there's value in doing that, because I think that what politicians should do, broadly speaking, is go in and try and get legislation that is positive passed. And so if
what positive legislation have they gotten passed by donating to those DCCC candidates?
Well, the Build Back Better bill passed in the House.
Did it pass in the Senate?
No, but she didn't give to senators.
So what legislation has the squad voted for? And it's also passed.
Yeah, why hasn't the squad gotten any legislation passed in the Senate where they are not operating?
In the Senate that you think is good and directly a result of them donating $5,000 to DCCC candidates.
Yeah, why isn't the squad getting stuff passed under Joe Biden when the Senate is killing all of the bills?
Also, wait, Sam, don't you also think that given that AOC...
Why hasn't the squad converted Joe Biden to being a member of the squad? Why haven't they yassified Joe Biden?
AOC, given that AOC specifically said that she was not going to donate to them, that's a problem, that she then went out and donated to them. And this is before
that. I think people could take issue with that.
And this is before there's even a Democratic primary. So there was going to be progressive challengers like Ava Patsova in Arizona's first district.
I think people could take issue with that.
So why did you not?
We did talk about it.
You just told me you didn't talk about it a minute ago.
No.
Yes, you did.
I didn't spend as much time emphasizing it apparently as you want me to, but I've just
you just told me a minute ago you didn't talk about it. What do you think about the fact that they voted to subsidize Cobra premiums for 6 months?
I, in fact, talked about it with AOC, and I said that was garbage, and she said it was garbage.
So you talked about it before she did it?
Yeah, I talked about it with the person in question, and they also admitted that it was garbage. Fuck, man. Jackson, I feel like Sam Seder is the perfect anti-Hinkle.
Did or after she did it?
After she did it, she came on the show, and I literally said that was a garbage vote, and she said, yes, it's garbage.
So did you press her as to why? I'm just curious.
Yes. You should go back and watch it.
What about when she voted to sanction Myanmar, Cambodia, and supported sanctions on Cuba, Venezuela, a handful of other countries she voted to sanction, and basically the entire global South?
Yeah, I'm against sanctioning in particular the case of Venezuela.
Okay. What about when she refused to speak out against Biden's airstrikes in Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, or Iraq, many of which killed civilians?
I don't remember if I said anything about AOC not.
You didn't. I was watching your show at the time. I actually watch a lot of your show, but usually to criticize you. What about when she voted to increase the Capitol Police and Security budget to a $1.9 billion increase?
I didn't take issue with her specifically, but I said that vote was wrong.
So
I don't really care.
Okay, Sam, there's one more thing I want to say here, because this kind of ties the whole argument together. There's a difference between saying that this vote is wrong and saying that not only is this vote wrong, but they could have leveraged the power that they had on these votes, because in the case of the Capitol Police and Security bill, they could have actually blocked the passage of that bill to get concessions in return. So why are you not saying that? Because you've actually gone out on the record previously, and you have said...
Jackson, let's have a debate here, okay? You're listing off every single time I haven't criticized AOC over the past...
Well, the question is why?
Childish. Well, I've made it quite clear. I don't care.
You don't care about what?
Let me ask you this.
You don't care about what? No. What don't you care about? What don't you care about?
Increase in the Capitol Police, I don't think is that relevant.
Why don't you think it's relevant? There was a leak yesterday from Capitol Police that shows that Capitol Police has intelligence units across the country that are creating dossiers on Congress people and their staffers. You don't care about that?
I think that's a problem. That came out yesterday.
Yes.
The increase in the Capitol Police after they were overrun, you know what? I just don't think it's that big of a deal. What I think is a much bigger deal in my mind was the opportunity to raise millions of children out of poverty, which they're not going to be able to do, but because, like you say...
Because they let it lapse.
No, they didn't let it lapse.
The child tax credit, they let that lapse. And they could have potentially blocked that from lapsing had they leveraged their vote.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about a number of votes. Do you understand the idea? Do you understand the idea of force the vote?
I hate the idea. I hate that Sam Seder's microphone is not overpowering Jackson's microphone. For some reason, Sam is getting drowned out here. But also, I can't believe that it's 2022 and Jackson Hinkle is bringing up force the vote for like a fucking... bringing up force the vote for the child tax credit. Bitch! The vote the vote was already there. It was in the Build Back Better plan. It got blacked by 2 Democratic senators.
Vote. Sam, do you understand the idea of force the vote?
No, I don't. But let's just stay.
What do you mean you don't understand the idea of force the vote?
I'm Jackson. Do you think AOC is better than Joe Manchin?
You don't understand the idea of force the vote?
Do you think AOC is better than Joe Manchin? Let's stay with your original thing that you wanted to debate. Then we can get to.
Is that what I wanted to debate? Did I email you about that?
Would love to focus the discussion around your support for the squad. I personally believe the squad and progressives in Congress are sellouts who have abandoned virtually every aspect of progressive principles over the last couple of years.
So where in that did I say that AOC is worse than Joe Manchin? I'm just curious.
I'm asking you, I'm trying to explore if they have sold out every aspect of progressive principles, and if you think Joe Manchin and AOC are essentially the same.
Again, I did not say that.
I didn't say you said that. That's why I'm asking you.
You're creating a fake argument. Of course, no, I don't think.
Just answer the question.
I'm asking you a question.
Well, no, you said that I said that, and that's what I initially came here to debate. That's not true. But no, of course, I don't think. Of course, Sam. Of course, I don't think that AOC is the same as Joe Manchin. Like, you think I'm insane or something? Of course, I don't think they're the same.
I have some questions. So
I have some questions about you too.
AOC is a better legislator, is more progressive than Joe.
God, this is like that. Honestly, this feels like that time Ben Shapiro went on UK television and lost his shit. This is what it feels like. Where like Jackson Hinkle just doesn't understand even the premises of Sam's question.
Joe Manchin.
I think she's a terrible legislator because she's allowed roughly 18 must-pass or near must-pass votes go through without blocking them in instances in which she could have actually blocked the agenda from going through.
Okay. Do you think AOC is more progressive than Joe Manchin?
That's not what I came here to debate, but of course, yes, I do.
Why I support...
It is absolutely a waste of time, but what an entertaining waste of time for us to watch Sam Seder engage with this waste of air. And
that's not what I came here to debate, but of course I do, yeah.
Okay, so the reason why I support the squad is because I think she's better than people like Joe Manchin. The squad.
So
think that
my problem with that,
Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and are better than Josh Gottheimer.
So you're basically saying, well, AOC is better than the lowest bar we have in the Democratic Party, so that's why I support her. By that logic, do you support Nancy Pelosi because Nancy Pelosi is better than Joe Manchin?
You know what? I don't support Nancy Pelosi because
really? But she's better than Joe Manchin, so why don't you support her?
Because she's not the best that we have in the Congress.
Okay, so let's take a look at the best we have in the Congress. The best we have in the Congress are, according to your logic, the best we have in the Congress right now is the squad, right? And the most progressive, I'm putting that in quotes, members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
Yes, exactly.
So given the fact that this group of individuals, the squad, campaigned on fighting for a set agenda, and they have not fought for that agenda, and they have abandoned every single opportunity that they could have blocked must-pass bills through or must-pass votes like the speakership vote during the Force the Vote saga. They have chosen to pass the
When was Force the Vote now? How long have they been holding on to this? Nancy Pelosi... Oh, also, Nancy Pelosi is going to run for re-election again. God damn it, Nancy. Get the fuck out of politics. Yeah. Okay, so it was like late 2020, early 2021.
Instead of actually forcing through their agenda and getting small or large concessions in return.
Okay. So
like, why didn't you support Force the Vote?
Well, I'll talk to you about Force the Vote, but let's just stay on the topic that you wanted, and then I'll talk about Force the Vote. The reason why I support the most progressive members of the Democratic Party is because they're the most progressive members of the Democratic Party. Now, if you want to have a conversation that you think people should be voting for a third party instead of Democrats, I'll have that conversation.
Jackson Hinkle is a guy who says he's a communist but argues against LGBTQ rights and is basically just kind of one of those grifty motherfuckers.
Conversation too. But why wouldn't, and unless you do want to have that conversation, why wouldn't
Hey,
I
Spherical
support
Man.
the most progressive members of the Democratic Party, even if they are subpar to where I want them to be?
I think that you need to hold them accountable, which is, I was a supporter of AOC. I donated to her. I bought her little merchandise stuff. And even during Force the Vote, even during Force the Vote, I would always say, I hope she proves me wrong. I hope she fights for this agenda that I care about. And she never did, and the squad never did. And they have chosen to vote for the party line every single time and not fight for their agenda.
You feel scorned by them, but you still think they're the most progressive members of Congress, correct?
That's not a high bar. I hold them to
No,
what
I
they.
know it's
No,
not
no,
a
Sam,
high bar,
listen. Don't interrupt. I was about to answer your question and you interrupted me. I was about to answer your question and you interrupted me.
Okay.
I hold them to the bar that they ran on while, campaigning for Congress. That bar is saying stuff like, I'm going to fight for Medicare for all. We can't wait 100 more years. We need to fight for it right now. Saying stuff like, I don't care if I'm a one-term congressperson. AOC said this. I don't care if I'm a one-term congressperson. I'm going to fight for my agenda or essentially go down trying. That's what I hold them to.
Okay.
Why don't you?
I mean, I have issues with votes that they have taken
Nuzzle
at
Rat.
times.
Exactly.
They are the most progressive members of the Democratic Party. And until there's more progressive, people who are more progressive than them, they're the best we have. I don't get attached to politicians like you seem to have felt like you're scorned by them in some way. And I just don't care. I don't think politicians have principles. I think they go in and they get the best that they can do. Sometimes I think that they make mistakes because they're not smart. Sometimes I think some of them are just completely sold out. I think there's a lot of sellouts in Congress. In fact, Ilhan Omar was on the program last week, and she specifically said there's a lot of people who came in progressive who are corporatists now. And I don't know who exactly she meant. I have some ideas. I suspect Nancy Pelosi was one of them. And so I don't get attached in the way you do. So your notion of my support for them, I didn't donate to AOC. I didn't get as attached to them as you did. I take them. They are politicians. I look for the most progressive politicians who are in a position to either win or to implement policy. And yes, they have largely failed. Joe Biden has failed. The Senate has failed. The Senate leadership has failed. I think Pelosi failed. I think it was a mistake for them to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. The Progressive Caucus has failed. In fact, I think that, one of the things that I am hoping, and, to the extent that I can pressure, there's only so much pressure I can bring to bear on politicians. But one of the things I am hoping that they do is that they actually implement some voting requirements, some litmus tests to be a Progressive Caucus member.
I think that's a great idea. But Sam, first of all, you just said a lot there.
Brought up that idea? You know who brought up that idea on this program?
I have brought up that you've brought that idea up on this program. I brought it up on my program as well. I know you've said that
up on this program.
You said it during your first Force the Vote video. Actually, you said that maybe it's time that we tell members of the CPC that they should have to support a vote on Medicare for all on the House floor if they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, look, this is part of the issue that I have with a lot of people who identify as like Marxist-Leninists or communists. And it's the inability to be pragmatic and to take little victories to add up to bigger victories, It's like that meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Mac puts down some mac and cheese in front of Dennis, and Dennis just throws it down the hallway. That's often what it feels like to me with these types, where it's like, hey, we can get a thing that will help millions of people, but it's not good enough. And it's just like, well, but it's the best we're going to get right now, And yeah, I know he's a grifter. Absolutely, Detken. But that's part of the problem is that there are a lot of Marxist-Leninists who act exactly the same. you know?
That's a great idea. I just wish you would continue holding them accountable like you did then. Anyways, but you said that I'm too.
How did I hold them accountable then?
Sam, I just let you talk for so long.
How did I hold them accountable then?
You want to go into this?
Jackson, what do you think is going on here?
You held them accountable back then by going out on your program and saying stuff like
honestly,
stuff like
is influencing them.
We could push House progressive members to leverage their votes. It is worth it right now. Tweeting at some of the top.
They got their shit through the House. What are you talking about, Jackson? It got killed in the Senate. Why? What is the argument here? For fuck's sake.
People who are supported by the Justice Democrats and the Squad. The more of a stink we make, the easier it is for progressives to leverage it because they can simply say, look, I have my own pressures. So I think it's a good idea to do this, to force this vote.
Yeah.
So why did you not say that or make a stink about this during the vote on the adoption of House rules or the congressional budget or the American Rescue Plan Act or the For the People Act or increasing the Capitol Police and Security budget or the 12% increase in the State Department and USA? No, I'm not done. 12% increase in the State Department and USAID funding that they all voted for. The Legislative Appropriations Act, Combating International Islamophobia Act, all of these things, the Infrastructure Act, increasing government funding, all of these things, Sam, I'm done, but let me just finish. I let you talk for so long and I don't interrupt you. I just expect a little bit of respect in return. All of these things were passed by a margin of roughly 6 to 10 votes in the House. These are all things that the progressives could have banded together, or in some cases banded together to stop and get concessions in return.
Jackson,
Sam, please stop interrupting me.
No.
Stop interrupting me.
Jackson, you listed off a bunch of votes that you presume I'm against.
No.
I have a problem with the State Department getting more funding.
No, you don't have a problem with that?
With the State Department getting funding? No.
A 12% increase.
I mean, a 12% increase, 11% increase, 13% increase.
You don't have a problem with the State Department, who is, leading coups across this world, who is launching hybrid warfare through the National Endowment for Democracy in countries all across this world, like Venezuela, like you just mentioned, that you said you had a problem with warmongering and sanctions on Venezuela. You don't have a problem with the 12% increase to the State Department when they could be getting concessions for progressive policies in return?
What concession?
Any concession.
Well,
do you know how closely that State Department vote passed? Do you even know the vote?
No.
It was 217 to 212. AOC, Tlaib, and Bush voted no. Presley, Omar, Bowman, Jayapal, Khanna, Lee, and Porter voted yes. So had 3 more progressives who voted yes, voted no, they would have been able to...
Just as an FYI, the State Department is a huge department that covers a whole lot of shit, from external political and military-ish or military law enforcement adjacent shit to also like energy development and also like economic and business investment and shit like that. Like it's a whole lot of things beyond just the CIA. Rayvana, thank you for subscribing, lovely. Hello.
Defeat the measure temporarily or, forever, because I don't support an increase in the State Department, unlike you. Okay. And they could have blocked it temporarily and gotten concessions in return.
Lady, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. I really fucking appreciate it. Thank you for supporting me on my vacation.
On the State Department budget.
So why don't you think it was a good idea to at least temporarily delay the passage of that to get concessions? What I
had more of an issue with was the...
No, wait, I want to hear you answer that.
Authorization. I don't care, Jackson. I don't care. I do not share your concern about the 12% increase in the State Department budget. I'm far more...
I'm not asking you to care about that. I'm asking you to care about the fact...
I hate that his mic overpowers Sam's.
That they could have delayed that. They chose not to. And by choosing not to, they abandoned an opportunity to get a progressive concession in return. Why didn't you?
Concession are you talking about?
Any progressive concession. You've listed things like getting better committee assignments.
Wait. So you think they're going to get a better committee assignment if they hold up the vote on a State Department budget?
That's what you've said in the past regarding the speakership vote. I think there's other progressive concessions they could have gotten in return. I think, they could have gotten votes on given policies. I think they could have gotten Biden's agenda potentially.
To me.
What about Sam? Listen, what about a $15 minimum wage for all Americans? That's not even a progressive agenda item. That's something Biden ran on.
Minimum wage.
Yes.
Not get through the Senate, Jack.
If you're streaming on your vacation, is it a vacation? I mean, look, I had to talk about this. It was too good.
Hackson.
But don't you think it would be important to at the least get a vote on that in the House?
I mean, I suppose. I think everybody has said they're for it. It's not going anywhere.
So why don't you support the squad delaying these bills, all the ones I just listed that passed by a small margin of votes, smaller than the squad themselves?
Things are not terribly relevant in the final analysis. I mean, one of the problems with, let's say, force the vote, and you wanted to talk about that, and you've quoted me from a video in which I initially talked about force the vote. Do we have that video?
Yo, Sam Seder is so fucking hot. I wanna meet him in a bar and just have him mansplain local beers to me.
Play that video. Play a clip of that video, and I'm gonna tell you like what exactly what happened with force.
You need to look at the video to remember what you said.
It was a year ago, Jackson.
I guess your opinions have shifted a lot since then.
Well, I've also done 300 shows since then. All right, here's the video. My only caveat about this is that I don't know how well it's going to do in a vote. I think it's going to get the majority of Democrats, I would imagine, if it was to take the vote taken. But it's also like, is that the best ask? Mm-hmm. Is it better ask? We want more progressives on this committee, or we want more progressives on that committee. But for the time being, and I need to read more into it, but I think the idea is that it is worth right now. I think this is one of those few places like where Twitter actually means something. All right. So now, Jackson, let me tell you what happened after that.
Can you hear me? My camera froze for some reason. You can hear me though?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So let me tell you what happened at that point. I was talking to some people and nobody in a congressional thing, but activists on this, and people who are involved in Medicare for All were like, it's going to be bad. We're going to lose 300 plus to 100. It's going to be bad for Medicare for All. And I was like, well, at this point, it's quite clear that the campaign for force the vote had already basically taken off. And at that point, do we just lose them?
No, I'm still here. My camera just went out. I don't know what happened.
Is that on your end? Because I could actually see me in your camera.
Yeah, no, it must be his.
It's on my end.
Anyways, all right. So, and at that point, I realized, like, okay, well, I'm not going to stay in the way of this thing because let 1,000 flowers bloom was my feeling. It was a dumb ask to have a vote. I'm now watching myself 4 times 4. It was a dumb ask, in my opinion, to have a vote for something that was going to lose. And I think that we definitely saw the failure, even if it had won. I think it would, and it wouldn't have gone anywhere in the Senate. But for it to lose so badly would have been a dumb thing to do.
God, I miss
and
Jamie
then all of
on
a sudden
this
it
show
became
so
this
much.
sort of litmus test. If the squad is not
That's another debate I would love to see. I would love to see Jamie rip Jackson Hinkle a new asshole.
using this to do a dumb performative act, then they're sellouts. And that was the only time that I actually even then started to speak out against the force of the vote. I'm not even sure if I did, maybe we talked about it once at that point. And the next time I talked about it was on a
Jamie left the show. I think she's doing something on Twitch now. Some kind of politics thing. Not sure.
Show I was invited on, which at the time I was invited on was called, what was it, like or putting Force the Vote to bed, I think it was. By the time I ended that show, it had been a debate, but that was weeks after it had failed. So the reason why I didn't hold them to getting committee positions with that vote at that point was because the whole thing had taken off as Medicare for All and had become, someone's sort of pet project to make it about some type of litmus test for the squad to push for Medicare for All, which I thought was a really bad idea.
All right. Well, what's interesting about that putting Force the Vote to bed debate? I don't know if you still believe this, but one of the reasons you put forward for not supporting Force the Vote was you said, let's say Nancy Pelosi says, fine, don't vote for me. The Dems lose the speakership because you're not going to get that 218 people to coalesce around another person. You're going to end up getting McCarthy. Do you still believe the lie that Kevin McCarthy would have become Speaker of the House if we tried to force the vote?
I have no idea what would have happened, to be totally honest with you, because there was no other candidate to run for Speaker of the House.
But you do understand it would have taken Democrats voting for Kevin McCarthy or a large number of people abstaining from voting altogether rather than voting for someone else to end up with Kevin McCarthy as Speaker?
Well, I don't know. Let's say they held out. What happens on day 2 or 3?
You keep taking more rounds of voting.
Do people abstain?
No, you keep taking more rounds of voting.
How do you know Josh Gottheimer doesn't abstain? How do you know Henry Cuellar?
There's historical precedent for this.
Well, there's historical precedent for what? Henry Cuellar?
For a House speakership vote that went 12 rounds.
Yeah, well, how do you know that Josh Gottheimer is not going to abstain? How do you know that Henry Cuellar is not going to abstain?
Because that would mean a Democrat is voting for a Republican. That's not going to happen.
Have you seen Henry Cuellar's voting record?
I have, and I've seen AOC's, which falls pretty much all in line with Nancy Pelosi's, too.
Right, well, Henry Cuellar's doesn't.
The fact of the matter is they were not going to vote for a Republican. The Democratic establishment would not have allowed that to happen. And the fact that you're thinking that there's some sort of practicality in this argument that Henry Cuellar or Gottheimer would have voted for Kevin McCarthy as Speaker is actually insane. Like, that's actually insane.
Okay.
So if you understand, though, the principle behind force the vote, and maybe you have problems with the Medicare.
I had a problem with the ask.
Jesus Christ, Sam. Let me finish before you interrupt me.
Leverage.
I know my camera's not on. It broke, but let me at least finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
If you understand that force the vote is a strategy that could be carried out, and you've said this in the past, you just think maybe Medicare for All wasn't the best ask, or the speakership vote was too risky because you don't understand how a speakership vote works, then why didn't you support forcing the vote on any of the other policies I listed, or criticize the squad for not forcing the vote on those policies?
Okay, let's not use the word force the vote, because
what do you want to call it?
Why didn't they use their leverage?
I know that phrase is triggering to you. So why didn't they use their leverage?
Why didn't they use their leverage? Now, how do you know that they didn't?
Yes, Sam here, this is the face of a triggered man. He's so goddamn triggered right now. Look at how triggered he is. This is not the face of a man who's being triggered right now. This is the face of a long-suffering man who pities the person he's talking to.
Because they voted for these bills without getting concessions in return.
How do you know?
Because there are no substantive large material changes that we have seen. There's nothing that the squad has been
wait a second. You just made a statement.
You just asked me a question.
Jackson.
Let me finish.
You answered it. You said there's no.
You just asked me a question. Do you want me to finish answering or not?
Do you know what's in the Build Back Better bill?
Answering.
Do you know what's in the Build Back Better bill?
The one that didn't pass?
Yeah, no, the one that did pass. It passed in the House.
Was it signed into law? I must have missed that.
But Jackson, we're talking about House members, yes?
Well, what is the point of...
Are we talking about House members, or are we talking about people in the Senate?
What is the point?
Are we talking about Joe Manchin or are we talking about AOC? You said that Joe Manchin is worse than AOC, that AOC is more progressive. They're different people. They're two different houses. You understand how that works.
You want to hear the incredible thing, Sam? You want to hear the? I understand that there are two separate chambers in Congress, Sam. You want to hear the incredible thing?
Hold on for 1 second, Jackson.
You to talk over. You haven't ever let me answer the initial question you asked.
I'll let you answer.
Let me say this.
Let me play this.
Interesting thing here.
Hold on 1 second, Jackson. Give me 1 second. Will you play the end of this, the Ilhan Omar thing? Because I thought this was sort of interesting, because I think it's possible that Jackson doesn't quite understand certain dynamics. Bradley, do you have that? Play this last clip, because I tuned into this, or I got to be fair. Somebody sent this to me.
What is happening?
And I was curious because Jackson had done a video on our interview with Ilhan Omar and said it was shocking.
Sam Seder's lining up the shot, boys.
Was it? Did we do something that was shocking in the interview? But play the end of this, and this is what I think it was. Fight's a little bit ways away, so we can hopefully catch it.
The leadership fight's not going to happen, dude. What are you saying? You honestly believe Ilhan Omar's like, this motherfucker thinks that we're going to hold the house? Oh my God. Okay, yeah, sure. You ask me those leadership position questions when the time comes around. Okay. All right. We'll see you later. Okay. That was incredible.
Okay. So Jackson, you understand there is going to be a leadership fight regardless of whether the Democrats hold the House. That there is a leadership fight.
Sam Seder right now. Lining up the kill shot.
Right. If they are in the majority, then it's for the speakership. And if they're in the minority, then it's just for the leadership. In other words, Kevin McCarthy is the leader of the Republicans in the minority. You understand how this works, right?
So first of all, I do want to address the fact that you just completely changed the subject when you were getting press. But yes,
no, I didn't change the subject. You don't think, like, you expect 6 members of the squad to change the votes in the Senate, and it doesn't work that way.
When did I ever say that, Sam?
Well, because you said, what concessions did they get? And I said they passed the Build Back Better bill, which you didn't seem to understand, in the House. And they did pass it in the House. And then you said, well, it wasn't signed into legislation. And I said, that's because it got stopped in the Senate.
Okay.
And 6 members of the House cannot control.
I'm trying to be really respectful right now, but you continue to talk over me and interrupt me. Let me go. So when you talk about speakership votes, that implies that there's going to be a Democratic majority.
I spoke about leadership votes.
Second of all,
play it again. He didn't hear it. Play it again. Hold on,
I'm going to mute you if you play it again. I'm trying to talk about.
It's my show, ding dong.
Okay, I'm going to go off and say what I'm going to say about what I've been trying to get out.
Oh God. Sam Seder calling someone a ding dong is just perfection. What a perfect man. The perfect debate bro has already been made. And his name is Sam Seder.
It's now, but you
can do it again, but you just misspoke. You said I said speakership and I said leadership. So let's play it again.
You think that even if the end of that conversation, the end of the conversation was about leadership, and it was, do you think that's not going to happen, dude? What are you saying?
Thank you for subscribing.
Omar's like, this motherfucker thinks that we're going to hold the house. Oh my God. Okay.
I didn't say that.
Okay, yeah, sure. You asked me those leadership position questions when the time comes around. Okay. All right.
Okay. So, all right. So Jackson, continue.
You have to unmute yourself, Jackson.
Is he still muted?
He muted himself. He muted himself on the Zoom call. Oh my God. Oh, fuck, man. This is incredible. This is 10 out of 10 comedy. This is goddamn beautiful.
He may not come back.
Ask him to unmute a few more times. It might be the complex setup he's got going on there.
He's got a pretty crazy setup going on. All I do is see myself twice. Did he go away?
He's still on.
All right, well, Jackson, if you want to come back, you can come back. If not, we can say goodbye. Or we can keep him on if we want.
I'll just keep him in this side.
God, what a little
Am I still on his screen? Still on his screen?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Do number, what's this one?
Pro streamer move.
Do this one.
Sam, why you got printouts, bro? It's 2022. Get yourself an iPad, man.
See if that gets him to come back. This is a, this is the thing is sometimes I think Jackson's maybe not as necessarily as truthful. He says live.
Oh my god. Oh, bringing up the fucking bot, getting blown the fuck out by your own dad.
As my parents told me when I was little, this is just from like
Fuck, man.
I guess it's from a year ago. Santa is real. The tooth fairy leaves money under your pillow. The United States military is fighting wars to defend our country. And then his dad responded, this is the only way that I knew him before this whole thing. I'm Santa. You never complained when you got the gifts. Yes, we were such assholes sneaking you money under your pillow. Never once did your mother and I tell you the military is fighting wars to defend our country. That's a bold-faced lie on your part. Did Jackson leave?
Yes.
He's gone. No. That's too bad. Because I wanted to ask him about that.
Wait, this video goes on for a long time.
Because as a parent,
He comes
I want
back?
to know
Okay.
if there's actually tension between them or if that was funny. Because I feel like I would do that to my kids at one point. But all right, let's take a break, and we'll come back and wrap up the show, and maybe Emma's just come back in so we can do this show.
Get Jackson back.
I don't think he wants to come back.
No, I think that. Well, I mean, I think we'll put it down to the technical confusion that he had going on there.
Yeah.
Maybe it was difficult to unmute. But yeah, I think we got all the points covered.
I think so.
We didn't get to the squad is the spear point of fascism in the United States, but maybe I can.
Do you want to give him that opportunity to say that? We should allow. Let's play that.
Yeah. Well,
Which part?
do we have the squad is the fascism?
Yeah.
It's not just that they're worse, that they're better
not
than
a
they're better
cookie.
than Manchin, but they're also
Fucking lol.
the vanguard of fascism in this country. See, this is the thing that I think was like a little bit disingenuous.
I feel like there's a little bit of Mott and Bailey, if people want to look that up, debating term, where you take a stronger position in one time, then a more defensible position when you're being called on it. But here's a little bit on the squad.
I don't
Are
think he said
Democrats
that
the new
actually.
fascists with their COVID concentration camps? I think that, as I've said before, and I literally got, it went semi-viral on Twitter when I said it, but I stand by it 100%. I said that fascism in the United States will come from progressive, like, woke circles, like the Squad, for example. I truly believe this is just
Fuck,
further
man.
proof of that, you know? This is just further proof of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, the people he acknowledges as the most progressive politicians in the House are going to be the fascist ones. Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, he has no camera.
So it's not just that they didn't leverage their vote to get progressive concessions when there was a 12% increase in the State Department budget. It's that they're the vanguard of fascism in this country.
I mean, my concern is that what if we did force the vote, and then all those squad members did vote for Medicare for All, and then we supported them, and then they did fascism on us?
That would have been the real...
They would have had us right where we wanted us.
But they're getting all these... Here's the amazing thing. On one hand, they're getting this preferential treatment where they're allowed to negotiate with Biden, but on the other hand, they're not leveraging their votes.
Yeah.
Now, presumably, they would leverage their votes to get negotiations with Biden.
Yeah. Well, they get the opportunity to be ignored by Joe Biden.
But I don't understand how you're supposed to leverage to get something, and that's different than getting preferential treatment from them.
I don't understand why he thought muting himself helped.
Emma.
He's coming back? Oh.
Emma's back.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah, sorry, back. Oh, my mic was off?
No. And your computer. And your camera.
Why did he think muting himself would mute you?
No, I muted him because he was talking over the clip.
Oh.
And he wasn't able to
Unmute himself.
Unmute
Gotcha.
Oh, you muted him. I thought he unmuted. I thought
was
he
talking
muted
over
him.
his clip.
Does he have the link? He could come back in.
Yeah.
I like when Emma has a dirty mouth. You know, like I love when she lets loose some swears, which she uses when she watches sports on TV.
Yeah, I mean, he's welcome to if he can get it. Maybe he can get his camera set up again too. He can go around too.
Look, Entrama, the Majority Report is pure bisexual propaganda. Okay.
It's got the link. It's there for him if he wants it.
I told him we have an hour. He can come back on if he wants to.
I think he might just rather complain about it, but we'll see.
He's already got the put up those videos again. Where's that thing of all the stuff, all the memes he's put on Twitter.
Should I come back?
Yes, there you
If
go.
he wants to rejoin, I don't want to be here in case, I don't know.
I don't think he
I
might
don't,
be. Is he
I
back?
don't want him to feel ganged up on because he clearly has a lot of opinions about
I'm
the
looking
show.
at the chat. His fans are very upset. So I think it's just
He can come back.
I want to say,
Yeah.
hey, tell him to come
He's
back.
got the Zoom link,
He
right?
clearly had some
He's got the
technical
link.
difficulties, so if
Yeah.
he wants to come back for round 2, I think that's the best thing for everybody, just to clear up some of these questions.
He can fix his camera. He can sort it all out. We can follow
People
Yeah.
are
some
saying
of the
that,
stuff.
let's see. Let's read some of our IMs, shall we? World-class illustrator. I can't believe he
Yeah,
scheduled an hour for this garbage.
Honestly, the Majority Report sniping Emma Vigeland from TYT, what a huge win for them.
Well, he was nice about understanding my skill.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Back? Okay, good.
He's back, y'all. It's
Death
not
pull
over.
from the future.
Round
Hinkle
2.
keeps complaining about AOC,
Round 2.
but in the one example he gave, AOC voted the right way.
Can you hear me?
I'll jump off so you guys
Yes.
can be on mano-a-mano.
Bro, like, first of
Where's
all, my
your-
camera's not working. Second of all, your host muted me. I don't know who that was, but your host muted
Talking
me.
over the clip. It was me.
Yeah.
Tried to
and then I never unmuted my thing. I never touched any of my stuff on my end. And then you guys claimed that I muted myself. You guys muted me and tried to get me off the stream.
Matt just said it. No, you're back.
I just said I muted you because you're talking over
We
the
do
clip,
that
and then-
fairly
Why didn't you unmute me when it was over?
I asked
And then
you-
you claimed that I muted myself and I was
Jackson,
leaving.
back.
Jackson, you're talking to me. Let me just clarify. I asked you to unmute yourself. You'll notice in the chat I said, "Are you able to unmute yourself?" And you left. But now that everything's sorted out again, except your camera,
Welcome
So
back.
if you muted me, why didn't you just unmute me?
I tried to.
Jackson,
Jackson, Zoom.
You're back.
Let me explain. Let me just explain for everybody because I don't want this to be the thing that they hang their hat on. It says ask to unmute yourself. So I asked you to unmute yourself. You had to affirmatively unmute yourself. You didn't do that. But
Why
now,
didn't you just say that?
That's what I said actually right before you got on there. So
We have
You
a
said it. You said it on a chat, but you didn't. I didn't. I'm not reading the chat. I mean, I didn't even know there was a chat in here. But all right, let's keep talking. So,
What a fucking child, man.
so my question, Sam, was if you understand the idea behind forcing a vote on these sorts of policies, and the squad ran on a set agenda saying they were going to fight for that agenda. And then every time they have the opportunity to force a vote on any number of these bills, they choose not to. And they have no material gains, no material concessions that they can show for these potentially hypothetical secret concessions that you claim they're getting, potentially. Then why aren't you criticizing them like we all are?
Okay, I don't know who we all are in this instance, but Jackson, you started this off by saying that they were getting preferential treatment by the Democrats, and one of those was their ability to go in and negotiate with Biden. Now, how is that preferential treatment different from exercising their leverage to get in and negotiate as to what the outcomes of bills will be?
Very, very easy answer to that. If you're looking at it from a practical sense as to what is pragmatic politics, the idea of going in on a joint task force with Biden does not result in material changes. In addition to that, those joint task forces, with the exception of, say, the climate change one, they weren't negotiating based on their agenda and items that they could potentially get concessions on. They were negotiating in favor of Biden's agenda between the more progressive aspects of his agenda and the more conservative aspects of his agenda. And I think that they need to be forcing votes on their agenda, concessions for their agenda.
Forcing votes? What are you talking about? What does that mean, forcing votes?
Well, I would ask you, because in your initial video and in the debate you had with Brianna Joy Gray, you said that, yes, I think forcing a vote is a fundamentally good principle.
For getting leverage for certain things is a good principle. But I don't know what you mean forcing a vote. You could have a vote. Listen, there's a bill that has been introduced by Jayapal, right? A Medicare for All bill.
It was introduced after they had already voted for the subsidization of COBRA premiums for 6 months, which is something you said you vehemently disagreed with.
I did disagree with it. Yes. I railed on it quite a bit, actually.
You know, they actually delayed the introduction of Medicare for All so they could initially first pass the COBRA premium subsidies in that COVID bill.
Yes. Nancy Pelosi is a very outspoken critic of Medicare for All. I'm aware of that. That's why I've criticized Nancy Pelosi for that as well.
So if you think that maybe Medicare for All is not the best ask.
Jayapal, do I think that putting a vote for Medicare for All on the floor is not the best ask? Correct.
Okay, so why don't they instead, focus on, if you think maybe these domestic policies are not their strong suit in forcing their agenda through, like Medicare for All, why don't they focus on foreign policy issues?
No. Jackson. You're talking jibber jabber here. If you
jibber jabber to talk about foreign policy,
listen, Jack, you're talking jibber jabber. See,
jibber jabber to you.
If you force the vote for Medicare for All, let's say, it will lose. And not only will it not win, which you don't seem to think winning in the House is even meaningful. Right? Because the Build Back Better is not going to become a bill because it's stopping in the Senate. What about losing a vote in the House?
You actually said on your show, and let me bring this up because this is your quote again. You said that you think that it's important to set markers even if votes fail. So when they can control, both houses and the White House, potentially with progressive politicians, they will have the record of who in the Democratic caucus votes for it.
Yeah, well, with the value we have of Medicare for All is that we know at the very least there's 100 Democrats who won't even co-sponsor the bill, right?
And you said
now, for instance,
you said that you thought it was a good idea.
In the Senate, they voted to expand Social Security payments. I don't know, 5 years ago, which I think was very helpful, even though it couldn't pass, because it holds and binds those people. So yes, I mean, I do think there's some value to it, but it's nominal. I wouldn't exercise, the type of leverage you're talking about to get a vote, particularly on a bill where it's going to lose 300 to 100 or whatever, 310 to 110.
Well, it's not even about that. It's about getting concessions that might not be necessarily policies. Like, for example, you have brought up this idea of getting committee assignments multiple times. So why are they not working to get better committee assignments for, I don't know, say the next congressional cycle?
I hope they are.
It's me, Natalie Marie. My bad. Whatever. Keck V is the new Keck W, okay?
Well, don't you think it's a bit of an issue? In fact, I would argue that maybe AOC sending money to moderate and
also we now have Peepo Bucks for specifically for debates. Okay?
Even conservative Democrats was part of that.
So you think that instead of leveraging their power, they should just be giving
What
money?
power, dude? There's 6 votes.
What power?
Yeah.
I just listed multiple votes that passed in the House with very slim margins, such as the Capitol Police and Security Fund.
If they sink those bills, what do you think they get?
If they sink those bills, they could get the concessions you were just referring to, and you said that you think maybe they got by giving money to DCCC.
No, they do. If they sink those bills, they decrease the likelihood that the establishment is going to work with them on their actual policy goals.
Democrats. That's what you just said.
It doesn't work that way, Jackson.
So you have to pay $5,000 to 32 different DCCC candidates to get anything done?
I mean, it greases the wheels. Yeah.
True, Nuzzle
It greases the wheels.
True.
So what if I told you instead of playing softball politics and greasing the wheels, which
What
is
is
all,
softball
don't interrupt me.
What does
You've
that
interrupted me
mean?
so many
What do you
times, Sam.
mean? I don't
You've
care.
interrupted
Don't
me
cry
so
about
many
it. Your
times throughout
parents.
this entire debate.
Listen, I don't care.
You've interrupted me so many
I don't
times.
care.
I've let you talk. Now
I
let me
don't
talk.
care.
What if I told you, instead of
keep saying
greasing,
things that don't mean anything? Softball
Sam.
politics. What does that mean?
It
What does
means-
softball politics
okay,
mean?
let me be specific. Softball
Please.
politics is giving $160,000 to DCCC Democrats when she said she was not going to do it. Please don't interrupt me. Hardball politics would be, say, blocking the State Department and USAID 12% funding increase, or blocking the Capitol Police and Security funding increase.
And what happens after you vote no on that?
You vote no on it, and you block the bill from passing. And because these are things that the Democratic establishment really wants passed, you get concessions to vote for those policies. That's hardball politics.
Policies? What are you talking about? What vote for what policies?
Votes for, no, I said getting concessions. And when I say voting for
He's gonna
policies,
retaliate against her?
no, I'm saying getting concessions to vote for the policies that they voted for without any concessions, like the increase in Capitol Police and security funding.
So
or
what
the
would
State
you do?
Department
What would you
increase.
change in that Capitol Police funding that you think that they should have changed in that bill?
Well, I don't think that we should have given an increase to Capitol Police and security
So you
funding.
think they
But,
should
it's,
just
but
vote
Sam,
no
Sam,
against
Sam, here's the part you're missing. It's not about necessarily what they could change in that bill. It's about blocking that bill until they get a concession for something that substantively benefits the agenda they are fighting for.
What is this something that you're talking about?
How does he know that they didn't do that? You know, like, their bills don't just magically appear before, like, Congress, right? So, like, yeah, they probably got concessions behind the scenes to vote for it. That's how politics works.
You've listed numerous examples on your show because you said Medicare for all is not a good ask. So what if we did this, that, or the other? There's a whole host of things.
Why do
I'm
you
not a
think-
member of Congress.
But I don't understand.
I'm not a,
You're
Sam, I'm not a member of
You seem
Congress.
to know how it works, Jackson, but you can't even articulate one thing that they're supposed to be asking for.
$15
That's
minimum
how-
wage.
Okay.
Better committee
So,
assignments.
let's
Better
say
committee assignments.
I'm not going to
Better
vote.
committee assignments.
Okay, but the committee assignments come out at the beginning of the year, and we'll find out about that.
Don't you think that they would say when they're receiving all the criticism,
In the
we
next
voted to increase the
But wait,
Capitol
let
Police
me
and
walk through
security
this.
because we got this
I'm
in return?
voting against. You want
And
my
don't you
vote.
think
You want my
that-
vote, Nancy Pelosi, for the State Department increase by 12%. And I'm going to withhold that vote unless we have a vote on Medicare for all and the 100 people who are against it vote for it.
And you said that was a good idea at the time.
No, Jackson, I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
Do you still not believe it's a good idea? Because at the time you said it was a good idea.
I very quickly said it wasn't a good idea.
So
very quickly after that video.
So you said that it was a good idea. You said then very quickly I changed my mind and I thought it was a bad idea. Now you cited your reasoning for this because you said you thought it was a part of a Jimmy Dore effort to hate on the squad.
No.
That's what you said. I've
No,
seen it
I
multiple
said- no,
times.
no.
But the question is, you still
Jack,
support
you just asked me.
support the fundamental strategy of forcing the vote, right?
What are you talking about? Force the vote? No, I do not sell. The idea of forcing a vote on something is stupid.
Yeah, the problem was with force of vote.
don't-
It made all about a vote.
Shut up. I'm debating Sam. So you don't think that progressives?
Don't say shut up to him.
You don't think that progressives?
I want you to apologize.
You don't think progressives should leverage their power?
You just say that.
You
I
don't
think progressives should leverage their power. Yes.
Okay, so that's called forcing the vote.
I didn't hear that. No.
Part of a Jimmy Dore effort to hate on the squad.
No.
That's what you said. I've seen it multiple times.
No.
The question is, you still support the fundamental strategy of forcing the vote, right?
What are you talking about? Force the vote? No, I do not sell. But the idea of forcing a vote on something is stupid.
Yeah, the problem was with force a vote. Made all about a vote.
Shut up. I'm debating Sam. So you don't think that progressives?
Don't say shut up to him.
You don't think that
Oh God. Oh jeez.
Progressives?
I want you to apologize.
You don't think progressives?
I want you to apologize. Oh God. Oh, Jackson is not going to do that.
Leverage their power.
You just say that. I think progressives should leverage their power. Yes.
Okay, so that's called forcing the vote.
No, it's not.
You just said 1 minute ago that I don't want to use the phrase force the vote. I want to use the phrase leverage their power.
You guys made that.
How are those different?
Oh my God.
Because it's what you use your leverage for, Jackson. Okay? Look, I don't want to get into
it's how you exert that leverage, Sam.
For a vote on Medicare for All's gonna fail.
So the substance doesn't matter?
I don't understand.
The substance of what strategy you employ to leverage your power. That's what matters. You think that instead of leveraging their power, they should donate $160,000 to DCCC Democrats.
Okay. I think contributing money to people gets them.
I know it's
to
not a
vote
cookie.
your way.
It's so much shade.
I think there are different things that you can do to build a coalition, to pass legislation, to materially benefit people.
And what happens when you have that coalition? What happens when you have a coalition?
I don't know if you would have gotten those corporatists who wanted the SALT reductions and et cetera, to vote for Build Back Better or to sign off on a provision to, let's say, have expanded child care or whatever it is, had they not built those bridges. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know for sure. We're not privy to those conversations. You can say, I don't think it's a good strategy to, and I can tell you this, the reason why Steny Hoyer is the whip of the caucus, of the Democratic caucus, is because Steny Hoyer gets all this corporate money that he doles out. He doesn't have to do much fundraising for himself.
We're not talking about
around the country. What goes around the country, and he builds support for things by donating money to different congressional candidates. And so is there value for the number one fundraiser, who happens to be a progressive, to wield that same type of power? My answer is yes, definitively.
So
I point to you exactly.
That's very interesting.
Where that power pays off.
That's very interesting.
No, I cannot.
That's very interesting because earlier on in this debate, you quite literally said I had a problem.
Everyone heard the debate, Jackson. It'll be on video. You don't have to
You said I had a problem. You don't want to talk about this. You said I had a problem with AOC donating $160,000 to DCCC Democrats when she said that she wasn't going to. So my question is, you just said a moment ago.
I had that problem, Jackson.
You just said a moment ago. You just said a moment ago that the squad.
Whatever.
You just said a moment ago that
People can look at the video, Jackson.
Okay, I would love to. You just said a moment ago that there is the potential for factions to form in Congress, and those factions can leverage their power. Did you not?
I don't know if I said that, but I agree with that statement.
Okay, so if you think that that is possible, and if the explicit goal of the Justice Democrats was to do just that, and if the reality of this session of Congress is they could have blocked certain votes that were, in my opinion, bad, maybe in your opinion, I don't know what you think about those votes, but they could have.
But they got their agenda passed. It's just that they don't control the Senate, which is the fundamental disconnect in this entire conversation. Like, progressives got their agenda passed in the Build Back Better plan. It just failed in the Senate. And Jackson is trying to hold House Democrats who are progressive accountable for the failure in the Senate of the bill they passed. They can't do anything to like make sure the bill passes in the Senate once it leaves the House. That's not something they have control of.
Block those votes to get
Or to use his phrase, it's not something they have leverage over.
concessions in return. They haven't done that. Don't you think that that is a failure of their strategy?
In general, no. I think that if they got no, because you're not giving me a specific instance, and I don't. There are votes that they may be for or against. I don't know.
So Sam, I actually respect you more. I actually respect you more after this debate than I initially did coming into the debate, because you said on multiple occasions, like when I brought up.
Yeah, I mean, like he's using like to use Sam's phrase jibber jabber to basically cover the fact that like his fundamental issue that he's bringing up is like, well, why don't Democrats in the House leverage? Why don't those progressive Dems in the squad leverage their votes to get more passed? And they did. They did leverage their power in the House to get things passed. Those things passed the House, and then they died in the Senate, which is not something that they have control over. And everything else that Jackson Hinkle is kind of bringing up is like trying to blame the squad for not also having control over the Senate, which is insane.
When I brought up the sanctions,
He's gearing up.
when I brought up the sanctions, when I brought up other issues that I had disagreements with them on, with the exception of the State Department and Capitol Police funding, you actually said that those were bad things, that you disagreed with what they did, and in some cases, but not all, you criticized them. But what you still fail to recognize is that the explicit strategy that the Justice Democrats ran on, which was to create those factions and essentially be a thorn in the side of the Democratic establishment, kind of in a way in which the Tea Party
explicitly that our job.
How many times are you going to interrupt me? You're interrupting me as many times as you said Jimmy Dore during the Breonna Joy Gray debate. I wasn't done. So they were to be a thorn in the side of the Democratic establishment. They have not done that.
On being a thorn in the side of the Democratic establishment is literally for children.
Or the People's Party. Go win some races.
Like, I don't like, I want material benefits for people. And if that means that they stroke the Democratic establishment or they are thorn in it, I don't care about that. That's for children. That's
It's not for children. It's
no,
not
I
for
don't
children.
care about the establishment. Mommy, daddy, this. Who cares?
By not being a thorn in the side of the establishment, they actually hurt themselves. Because by donating, yes, they did. By donating to the DCCC candidates who were going to be challenged by progressive primary candidates, they have essentially ruled out the odds of those progressive primary candidates challenging the DCCC candidates in this next election cycle.
Candidates?
What?
Which progressive candidates were running against those?
Ava Patsova is the one that comes to mind. Arizona's first district. She was going to run against one of these DCCC candidates. Who
was the candidate that AOC gave to that Ava Petrova was going to run against?
What's that? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Who was the candidate that AOC gave money to that Ava Petrova was going to run against? And what was Ava Petrova's chance of winning?
The candidate that she gave money to was whoever represents the first district. It's Tom O'Halloran. He's a corporate Democrat. Ava Patsova she ran against him in I believe she ran against him in 2020. And then she was going to run against him again. She did very well. She didn't even have, I believe, she didn't even have Justice Democrats backing at that time. But the question is, why is AOC...
wait, AOC gave money to a candidate that Justice Democrats are running against?
No, I said that I don't think she was actually endorsed by Justice Democrats in that race, but there was the potential for her to be endorsed by them in the next race. She wrote an article in The Intercept. I suggest you read it. It's really interesting.
Why would AOC give money to a candidate that wasn't endorsed by Justice Dems this race, but might be endorsed in their next race, why would you give money to someone for a future race rather than the one that they're currently in? What? This is like nonsense gibberish.
But Sam, the question is not about the odds or the likelihood. No one thought AOC was going to beat Joe Crowley. She had no backing. She had no odds of winning, and she still won. Now imagine if there was that apparatus of AOC and the progressives behind Ava Patsova, who is a convincing candidate, who is respected by many of these progressive institutions, who did write an incredible article in The Intercept about this. Don't you think that there are some more Ava Patsovas out there who could have challenged DCCC corporate candidates that AOC donated to before primary even took place?
I mean, it's possible.
It's possible. And that's called softball politics, or greasing the wheels, as you put it. And that's why I think it's a failed strategy, because they are actually hurting themselves, their broader movement of establishing a larger faction.
Now, do you still think that they are the vanguard of fascism in this country? Because if they are actually to help themselves, their strategy, that would be sort of problematic if you think they're fascists, right?
I'm not talking about helping themselves. I'm talking about fighting for the agenda that they campaigned on and utilizing the strategy that they said that they were going to carry out via the Justice Democrats faction in Congress, which, according to that, little discussion we just had about the DCCC donations, they're not doing that. They're choosing to grease the wheels, so to speak.
Well, I think they're probably doing both.
If they were doing both, don't you think that they would have blocked any number of those policies?
No.
Why?
I mean, I don't know what any number of those policies you're talking about, but you're conflating.
Last time I tried to list those policies, you said, Jackson, stop listing policies.
You're conflating electoral strategy with legislative strategy.
Let's just take three in particular. The speakership vote, the Department of State and USAID 12% funding increase, and the Capitol Police vote. Let's just take those three. Those are three examples in which they could have leveraged power.
Well, they could have, or they could have just voted against it.
Or they could have just voted against it. Yeah, I mean, there's more that I have here. I have 18 listed. And each one, has...
Like, so for instance, for the speakership, they may have felt like, well, okay, we cannot vote, but ultimately we're going to have to. I mean, you just said yourself, the precedent was that they take 12 votes and that they end up going to land on Pelosi. So if Pelosi knows that, if you're right, and there's no other option as to who's going to be speaker, then what?
Well, what if I told you that there potentially could have been other options? You could vote for anyone. They could have voted for Barbara Lee if they wanted to. I mean, John Boehner served Speaker 2011 to 2015. He got more, Republicans elected since any year since 1928. And he had popular support until the Tea Party came along and they forced him out. He had to retire before he even did another speakership election because he knew he was going to lose. So why could the squad not have done something like that?
Who was the other candidate? Barbara Lee didn't want to run.
Anyone could have run. It doesn't matter. Anyone could have run.
They didn't.
Why didn't they?
I don't know, but they didn't. There was no other person to vote for. So after 12 votes in your scenario,
yes,
Nancy Pelosi knows she's going to get elected.
No,
knows
because Sam, if you don't think that at a time when 75% of Americans wanted Nancy Pelosi to step down as speaker, she has record low approval.
75% of Americans, chat. But do you know how much goddamn support Nancy Pelosi has in the Democratic Party? Do you know how much support she has? Excuse me. Nope. Do. Where did I see the polling? Within the Democratic Party, there's like an absurd number of people who are like, yeah, Nancy Pelosi's an absolute girl boss. She's amazing. Among Yeah, I mean, like, even when it hit an all-time low, chat, in like the past several years, like 55% of Democrats were like, yeah, Nancy Pelosi's like great. We love the job she's doing. Yeah. She doesn't have 75% approval with Democratic voters, but like it has historically been very, very high. I can't find the numbers for what it is recently, but like last time I checked, it was in like the high 60% range. Like I think last time I checked was when Build Back Better was being pushed really hard. And I think she might have gotten over 70%. Yeah. Like it was really high. Within the Democratic Party, it's very high. Outside of the Democratic Party, Hinkle is right. Most people hate her guts, you know, whether conservative or leftist, absolutely hate her guts. But yeah, within the Democratic Party, people generally like her, which is unsettling for sure.
Approval rating that people are not going to coalesce around a movement to get a new speaker, then you're delusional, because that is what would have happened. And even
yeah, so this is just to point out that like the idea that people would coalesce around a movement to oust Nancy Pelosi when, well, Democrats would be voting internally on whether or not Nancy Pelosi would keep her seat. And most Democrats support Nancy Pelosi, even when she was at her lowest approval ratings in years. So,
Speaker.
Even if, Sam, this was the idea behind Force the Vote, even if it eventually, after 13, 15, 18 rounds, ended up with Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House, they still would have been able to get concessions because of the spectacle they would have drawn by delaying an already unpopular politician's, rise to the speakership position.
So there was a movement afoot in the country, presumably by Democrats, to get a different Speaker of the House other than Nancy Pelosi. That's what you're telling me. And the spectacle
I'm saying that you inspire change.
The spectacle created would have magically gotten them the ability to get whatever they want. Like the spectacle almost of like forcing the Republicans to filibuster a Voting Rights Act.
I'm talking about the spectacle of Representative Jeanette Rankin starting a House floor vote on women's suffrage in 1918. And because of the mass public appeal that was drawn after the introduction of that vote in the House floor debate it started, within 1 year, we achieved women's suffrage in this country. That's what I'm talking about.
I see. It would have been like women's suffrage.
Yeah. You know, those long debates we have on the House and Senate floor these days that are totally, meant to move people and not just to toe party lines. Yeah, politics is the same in 2022 as it was in 1918.
Suffrage to get what?
It's the strategy. It's not the fact that you have a major.
It was just a coincidence that it was about women getting the right to vote. It had nothing to do with the success of that.
Did I? Hey, did I just not list John Boehner and the Tea Party as an example? I don't only cherry pick my examples. I mean, I just listed the Republican Party as a beautiful example of how the strategy could be employed.
How there was somebody to run against Boehner.
Sam, the idea is you delay and you potentially find someone to run against Nancy Pelosi. It doesn't matter if there's someone who wants to run. Sam, they can vote for anyone.
They're going to vote.
You understand how a speakership vote works?
Yeah, I understand how the speakership vote, but you
realize that they can vote for anyone, right?
Yeah, but
So you realize that there were Democrats who voted for other Democrats who weren't actively pursuing the speakership?
are you telling me that there was another candidate? Who was that candidate that was going to win?
Do you understand that there were Democrats who voted for?
With this. So
Do you understand that there were Democrats who voted for other Democrats?
Nancy Pelosi gets the speakership.
Sam.
But she knows she's going to get the speakership, but that's still going to force a vote because it happened with suffragette, with women's right to vote.
So why did some if you have to have a declared speakership, campaign,
Jackson,
why did some Democrats vote for other? Why did some Democrats? Why did some Democrats vote for other Democrats who weren't actively pursuing?
You made Sam say that. You made Sam say a swear, Jackson. You made Sam say a swear. He never says swears. I don't think I've ever heard Sam say the word shit.
If that's the case,
They can.
oh, okay. So that's super interesting because you were saying that they couldn't employ the strategy because there was no one who was actively
So
pursuing.
these
the
6
speakership.
people would have voted for somebody else.
You know that there was someone who even voted for, I believe, Tammy Duckworth, who's not even in the House.
Did you win?
Did she? Okay.
What?
Of course, they could vote for somebody else.
Oh,
But they're not
okay.
gonna win.
Interesting. Because a minute ago, you
Did
just
the
said,
person
well,
vote
who are
for
they going
Tammy
to vote for? There's
Duckworth?
no one else
Get all
pursuing
the
the
concessions
speakership.
they wanted?
You were just saying no one else was pursuing the speakership.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I mean, you want to keep litigating this
More
force
like
the
Tammy
vote a year
Dunkworth.
later.
Boom.
It's a failed
It's
strategy.
not a year later, Sam. There again, I listed 18 different times throughout just 2021 in which they could have.
Sam's looking for a way out. He's looking for any way out. Right now, he's eyeing a particularly sharp pair of scissors, okay?
As you put it, leverage their power on given votes by blocking the passage of them. That's force the vote in a nutshell. And you're saying that force the vote was just during the speakership vote.
Oh, poor Sam.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is honestly like arguing.
I don't know what to tell you. You accused me earlier of being the guy who gets too attached to politicians. You are the one who gets too attached to politicians and refuses to criticize them where it matters most. Sure, you'll occasionally talk poorly when they make an abhorrent vote, but you will not criticize them on their overall strategy, which is pursuing a greasing of the wheels rather than playing hardball politics and leveraging their power.
I just don't make the assessment of their power like you do.
It's not making an assessment. It's looking at how closely these votes pass and knowing that they had enough people to block their passage.
Well, in some instances, maybe they didn't want to block their passage. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Then what's the point of the Justice Democrats if they are not going to? And it's not necessarily about blocking.
we
It's
know
about
what they're
delaying
better.
in some
They're
cases.
more
What is
progressive.
the point about the Justice
They're more
Democrats if they're not
progressive.
doing
You've
what they
already
set out to do?
conceded. They're the most progressive members of Congress.
Is that the bar you want to set them to? That's the bar you want to judge them upon.
That's the only bar that exists, my dude.
I think that's. I mean, what about when the squad was not in Congress? Did you actively support Nancy Pelosi because she was one of the most progressive in Congress?
I supported Bernie Sanders.
What about the House? I'm talking about the House. We're talking about the House.
It's all relative, my dude. Yes, it's relative. What about 10 years ago? There were different people in Congress 10 years ago. So yeah, who would be most progressive 10 years ago would be different than today. God, my pussy getting dry as the Sahara up in her.
I mean, I didn't perceive Nancy Pelosi as the most progressive member. At one point, I thought she was the best when Donald Trump came to office. I figured she might be the best person to be in the leadership while they're in the minority. But subsequent to that, I felt like I would rather have someone who was not even progressive be in the leadership of the House. I mean, and I think to a certain extent, I know you watched the Ilhan Omar interview, you didn't quite fully understand the leadership conversation, but I think that she was implying that you don't really the leadership position should not necessarily be about whether they're progressive or not. I think it's really more about the amount of power that you can amass amongst the caucus.
So Sam,
And six
when you
people-
talk about
six
power in the
freshman
caucus,
or sophomore members of Congress, 6 members of Congress just don't have that kind of power.
so when
You talk about the Freedom
they
Caucus,
do have that
Tea
type of
Party
power.
people getting rid of Boehner. You're talking
They
about
do have that type of power,
people
Sam.
who were secret members of this caucus, and we just don't have that kind of power yet.
First of all, the Republican majority at the time was much bigger than what we see today, and the squad has multiple opportunities, 18 again that I've listed, in which there was must-pass bills or near must-pass bills in which the vote was so slim.
what is a
that
must-pass bill in your estimation?
a must-pass bill is something that either must pass to continue with the session of Congress, such as a adoption of House rules, speakership, House vote, or the near must-pass bills that I was referring to are things that are a top priority of the Biden administration to pass to solidify his legacy.
I mean, the must-pass bills would be something like a debt ceiling or something to that.
Sure. Avoiding government shutdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been probably, I'd say,
Come into the jacuzzi. It's so warm and dry, like sandpaper on your flesh.
6 or 7 of those.
Okay. Now, and your argument is that if they inhibited the passage of this bill, they'd be able to get stuff each time.
The Democrats would reward that.
The Democrats would reward
Yes,
that.
that's how politics works in Congress. This is what Republicans and Democrats have done for years. This is how it works.
So in other words, like when I don't know, like Lynn Cheney, for
Desert up in
instance.
this birth.
Liz Cheney, sorry. Like when she bucks them and they reward her, is that it? She gets stuff from the Republican Party.
I think it's a little bit of a different makeup with Liz Cheney in the Republican Party.
I'm just you're telling us exactly how
You're speaking vaguely. You're speaking vaguely. I'm talking about specific votes that they could have blocked. You're speaking about bucking the GOP establishment on maybe a talking point or maybe impeachment. Are you referring to? I don't know what you're referring to.
Yeah, impeachment, January 6th commission.
Well, the difference is Liz Cheney doesn't. In some cases, she has been able to whip even Democrats to block, some of the MAGA agenda, such as when Trump wanted to remove troops from. He wanted to do a partial removal of troops from Germany and Afghanistan. She whipped together even one of my own former congresspeople, Mike Levin from California's 49th district, to vote in unison with a plurality, I guess, of Republicans on that measure to block Trump, and it succeeded. But the difference between Liz Cheney and the squad or the Justice Democrats, whatever, is that the Justice Democrats have a set ideology. They campaign to form a faction and essentially leverage their power to carry out, their agenda or to get concessions that flow in line with their agenda.
Yeah, but Jackson, they need more power to actually dictate more agenda. That's how it works, Jackson.
So my problem is they're not doing this, and the votes that they are passing are votes that I, entirely disagree with, such as those sanctions I mentioned, such as Capitol Police funding, the Israel Iron Dome vote.
Yeah, no,
Israel Iron Dome vote is not one of those because that passed by such overwhelming margins.
And you wanted to debate me on this because you want me to have the same agenda that you have.
No, I want you to hold the squad to what they said they were going to do and what they said they were going to fight for. I am curious, what is your preferred method of holding the squad accountable when they continue to not fight for their agenda by pursuing the strategy?
I mean, Jackson's end game is aggrandizing himself. That's it. That's the only end game he has.
Of leveraging their power.
If it makes sense to primary them, I would primary them. But I don't think it's worth the deployment of resources personally to primary the most progressive members of Congress.
Okay, so
Okay, good night,
at
Frondo.
what point do you maybe begin to think that instead of continuing to operate within the confines of the Democratic Party and primarying more people and ending up with the same results,
this
they
is
need something else.
What we should have had a debate about, Jackson. And I was trying to get to, because really, if you think that the progressive Democrats in Congress are the vanguard of fascism,
It gets so much worse. How is it going to get worse than this, Mouselander?
if you think that they are worthless, then you think the entire Democratic Party is worthless. And what you're really coming on to argue is that we should be supporting a third party.
No, what I came on to argue, Sam, what I came on to argue is the fact that the only time that you defend the squad nowadays is when you make videos about Jimmy Dore, and you know that those are the only videos that get you views.
So, I'm sorry.
You make these videos about Jimmy Dore, at times attacking the squad, and you defend the squad, and then the only reason why you do this, though, I think, is because you want to do a hit piece on Jimmy Dore. And even though your channel has over 1 million subscribers, your only videos that get views are ones about Jimmy Dore and when you defend the squad and so on and so forth.
You seem very invested in YouTube, dude.
In other words, you wanted to come on and debate about.
Sam holds a major stake in left YouTube, as do the Young Turks. That's why I am invested.
Well, I don't get views. I mean, so I don't know why you say I have a stake.
You get a lot of views. I just said, though, you get a lot of views on the videos in which you go after Jimmy Dore for criticizing the squad.
Well, we should probably do more Jimmy Dore videos. But but that aside, is that what you want to come on to debate? That you don't like the idea that I'm doing Jimmy Dore videos?
Sam, I don't know how many times I have to say what I came on to debate. You refuse to actually hold the squad accountable. And you said maybe at one point...
Hold them accountable how? God damn.
I am going to support primarying them, but I don't think that's the best, way to leverage our power and resources. But I guess I would just pose the question, because, I don't support primarying the squad. I don't support primarying Democrats right now, because I think that...
Why?
Because I think that the Justice Democrats are a failed strategy, and they're choosing to play party politics and pass the DNC's agenda.
Oh, so you just think that we should vote for third party candidates?
I think that there's other avenues we need to look into, but what I think we all need to come.
But what are those other avenues? Why? I mean, this is what's important about this conversation.
Sam, what I think we all need to come into agreement upon is that the Justice Democrats, their strategy has failed, and the squad is now towing the line of the DNC. That's something that you still refuse to acknowledge or address or even attempt to hold them accountable upon.
I disagree. You've already stated that you consider them more progressive than the Gottheimers and the Manchins of the party.
I disagree with you. You just said that you will occasionally call them out for some of the bad votes they take.
I know.
There were some that I mentioned that you did not call them out over, which is okay. I don't expect you to follow.
What is he even talking about? God, he somehow Jackson Hinkle manages to blend being like a condescending prick with just like heartless, meaningless drivel. It's very fascinating.
Every single detail of congressional votes.
It's like a superpower.
At the end of the day, you are not criticizing them for failing upon their overall strategy of forming a faction that can leverage their power in Congress, and you are instead giving them some, at least tepid support for greasing the wheels and giving $160,000 to DCCC Democrats.
Correct.
So that's where I guess you and I just disagree.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the People's Party.
Would you support AOC giving more money to
Oh, Sam Seder. Oh, Daddy.
DCCC Democrats, even though she said she wasn't going to do that?
There you go, real rad hum.
If she made an assessment that there was a strategic value for it, I would be okay with it.
Even if there's more opportunities to leverage their power on must-pass or near must-pass bills?
I don't agree with your premise that.
What don't you agree about it? Because do you agree that they don't have the number of votes?
Again, over and over again. I don't.
No, you haven't outlined yet.
Effective is effective.
They're not going to reward you.
You don't think that they have enough votes, or what?
I just don't think it's going to go down the way you think it's going to go down, Jackson.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, salmon moose.
I don't think your idea of how Congress works is how Congress works.
It is how it's worked in the past. I mean, this is how
I know
Congress works.
the suffragettes. Yes, I understand.
The
No, I wasn't going to bring that up.
example.
I was going to bring Boehner up. But the idea is that if they, maybe this has never happened before in Congress. Maybe, hey, Sam, maybe this has never happened before in Congress.
God, whoever made it so that Jackson's microphone overpowers Sam needs to be like, I don't know, put up in like the stocks for people to mock in the streets. You know, like, it should be the other way around.
Don't you think that they should at least try?
Jackson,
Because this was
when
their
you were
strategy.
in junior high,
Daddy.
I don't
I
want
was
to talk about
covering
This is
every
very-
day
this is-
what
this is
John
very-
Boehner was
This is
doing.
very weird.
I
don't wanna-
can tell you.
This
I
is
can
very
tell
weird.
you.
I don't want to. What are you
No,
doing
I can
talking
tell
about
you
junior high?
that I
I'm
know
talking
what
about the
happened to
fact
John
you
Boehner.
changed subjects.
There was not
You're changing
four
subjects.
members. There was
You're
not
changing
four
subjects.
sophomore members of Congress who eliminated John Boehner.
You are
okay?
changing subjects.
No, you brought up John Boehner. You brought up John Boehner.
And then you went to this weird analogy about my middle school. Or
It's
something.
not an analogy.
What I'm talking about
That's
is the
not
fact
what an
that
analogy is.
okay, so you
What is
still have
this?
not outlined this.
I was saying
you
that
still
I
have not
followed
said.
very carefully what happened to John Boehner, and none of it went
Thank you so much for subscribing. Jackson is Judden Kruger.
down the way you say it did.
Okay, first of all, that's incorrect. But second of all, you did not acknowledge what I initially questioned to you.
Which was what?
I mean, maybe if you'd listened, you'd heard me. What I said was that the squad could have blocked the passage of these bills. You have not contested that they didn't have enough votes to
They
block
could
or
have
delay.
voted against it. Yes.
Block or delayed. Okay, so you're saying they could have done
They
this.
could have voted against it.
They could have blocked or delayed it. Yes. So why do you think that that would have failed, even if it's never happened before?
They could have voted against it, and if they had enough votes to kill the bill, they could have killed the bill.
Or they could have delayed it and renegotiated.
What do you mean delayed it?
They could have told Nancy Pelosi that we are not going to vote for this unless you give us substantive concessions. They could have gone out on CNN and MSNBC on Mehdi Hassan's show and say, I'm not prepared to vote for this bill until we get these concessions that we have listed. Don't you think that that is an effective strategy? And don't you think that's also the strategy that
I
the
think
Justice...
that-
No, not always, Jackson. For example, imagine after January 6th and the Washington, D.C. cops were overrun. The state capitol police were overrun. Okay? And imagine you vote against that package. Who's going to look worse? The answer is the progressives blocking the legislation. You are going to look worse blocking that legislation. Okay? So your wins are going to be on a much slimmer margin than your than otherwise, okay? So you could pick up a bunch of different things, but the end result is, yeah, they're politicians. They spend their days negotiating future legislation. That's literally their job. The idea that they're not doing that is weird and juvenile.
Democrats
I think
initially
that-
ran on?
I think that could work on occasion, but I think that Nancy Pelosi,
Okay.
for the most part, is beloved by Democratic voters, for better or for worse.
That's incorrect.
Not
She's got a
necessarily.
very, very low approval rating. But if
Not
Democrats?
true with Democratic primary voters.
Google
dude.
this up.
Let's
Put
look
it
it up,
on.
man.
Sam,
Hold
so
on.
you
Let's
just
do a little
acknowledged.
fact check for you, Jackson.
I just said she had approval rating. Did you
No,
not
with
hear what I just said?
Democratic primary voters.
Yeah. Go.
I'm
Put up
talking about the
Democratic
whole of
voters.
this country. But
Well,
Sam, you just
who cares
said
about-
Yeah, but the whole of the country doesn't matter when you're talking about Nancy Pelosi or internal Democratic Party politics. They're not trying to get Republicans to vote in internal Democratic politics. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Insert meme.
Sam,
Republicans,
I don't
dude.
want to let you off on this. You just said,
Bradley, will you look that up and put it up on
look
the
it up. I could not, I don't care. So you just said that on occasion you could see how leveraging their power by either withholding their votes for a given policy could work. So why are you not criticizing the squad when they choose not to do this?
I don't think that they should do it randomly. I don't know.
I didn't say randomly. I just said they could do it. And you just said that.
Jackson, there was a $3.5 trillion bill that was passed in the House that included some of the key priorities that these lawmakers wanted. And you're suggesting they're not leveraging their vote because it didn't pass in the Senate.
No, I'm saying because they are voting for bills that did pass in the House and in the Senate and were signed into law, and they are not withholding their support for those bills, like Capitol Police funding, like State Department funding, the House speakership.
What is the value of them voting against Capitol Police funding relative
You just said it.
to getting
You just said it.
pre-K for people?
You just said it. You just said
They got the pre-K.
You just said Sam, you just said that the value in it, this is your words, that the value in it is that, yes, I could see that sometimes working. You said that.
Listen, Jackson.
How many times do you want to change the subject before
Jackson,
you
I'm not
finally address
changing
that? You're not
subject.
holding
You're
them
saying
accountable.
you
Sam,
want them to
you are not
leverage
holding
their
them
vote
accountable.
to get stuff that they want, and they got it in the
You just said that they could do that, though.
What the hell? Oh yeah. Honestly, this is the part where you're like, yeah, Jackson, explain it to me one more time, and then you hang up while he talks.
Yes, I agree that there is such a thing as leverage and that it can be used, and I'm suggesting they've done it.
I'm suggesting to you that they haven't done it because they haven't withheld their votes. You're saying that the Build Back Better agenda is.
How do you know they didn't withhold their votes?
Build Back Better agenda is Biden's agenda. That's not even their agenda.
How do you know they didn't withhold their votes and Nancy Pelosi didn't go to him and say, I owe you one?
And that's why they're not going harder at him like you suggested up top.
I don't think that they're doing that, because if they were doing that, if they were going to be withholding their support, they would do what Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman did before the speakership vote. Do you remember what they did? They went out on, was it Dana Bash's show or something like that? They went out on some corporate news show and they said that we are not going to guarantee a vote for Nancy Pelosi.
Why are you putting an accent on there? Oh, because it's Bowman. All right.
I'm putting an accent on there? What?
Yeah, let's play that back again. That was really weird. The way he said that.
Bowman did before the speakership vote. Do you remember what they did? They went out on, was it Dana Bash's show or something like that? They went out on some corporate news show and they said that we are not going to guarantee a vote for Nancy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is not Jackson Hinkle's normal talking voice. Okay? This is not
some corporate news show, and they said that we are not going to guarantee a vote for Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, he forgot he wasn't on his own show, and he did a racism, yeah.
Why are you putting an accent on there? Oh, because it's Bowman. All right.
I'm putting an accent on there? What the hell is this? We are not going to be voting for Nancy Pelosi guaranteed unless we get substantive things in return. And they listed two things, I think. I think they listed reparations and they listed one other policy. At the end of the day, they did not coalesce and try to make these things happen. But that is what you need to do if you have big asks.
Yeah, Jackson Hinkle suddenly comes out as the bastard son of Justin Thoreau.
Or you have, concessions that you want. You need to be willing to make a public cry to the people to support you in your effort. You've also acknowledged that AOC has some of the most power in Congress. She's got the most fundraising. She's got the most Instagram, Twitter followers.
You get the most Twitter followers. Okay.
So she should use that to her leverage when she makes these public cries for support when she is going to be withholding her support for these bills.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? What is this okay? You have one of the largest news shows on YouTube for leftist politics, and you refuse to criticize them. You just say, okay, you say, I don't care. What is this? Do you not have any values that you stand upon?
No. I don't. We done?
Let's be done.
Oh my God.
75% Democrats support Nancy Pelosi.
Holy shit! I was lowballing it, chat. 75% of primary voters in the Democratic Party support Nancy Pelosi. Jesus Christ.
That'll have a lot of value in a primary.
I'm not terribly happy about that.
Fuck, man.
Value.
I gotta
I don't
listen to this
think
again.
she is going to be withholding her support for these bills.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? What is this okay? You have one of the largest news shows on YouTube for leftist politics, and you refuse to criticize them. You just say, okay, you say, I don't care. What is this? Do you not have any values that you stand upon?
No.
Absolute goddamn Chad.
We done?
Let's be done.
He just fucking left. After Sam said no, he just fucking left the call.
75% Democrats support Nancy Pelosi.
That'll have a lot of value in a primary.
I'm not terribly happy about that.
Maybe we can hear more about the People's Party next.
But to be fair, that was 2 days ago, so that could have changed. That's pretty much a straight
Maybe
line.
once they hear about force the vote, it'll dip.
I mean, I think to a certain extent, like there is.
Did I say that she has?
Oh God, he's still here. He's still here. Oh no. Just take the L, dude. Just take the L and leave. Sam just go. No. Why?
She has
I thought you hung up.
in the Democratic Party. Did I say that?
I don't know.
Are you
what-
putting words in my
Actually,
mouth?
honestly, I stopped listening to you some time ago, to be honest with you. But I appreciate.
Maybe, hey Sam, last words here.
Sure.
Maybe listening to the people who used to be your viewers and used to be your fans like me should be something that you do in the future. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate the conversation.
You're still a viewer, Jackson.
I'm
I
sure
can
this.
tell.
What's that?
Not only are you still a viewer, but you actually show it to the people who watch your show. So I
I'm not a fan of you anymore, though. That's the difference.
Oh, Jesus,
I'm
my
sorry
heart.
about that.
His heart's broken. That's just from what, a week?
Thank you,
Poor
though.
little
I appreciate
guy.
you coming on, Jackson. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm
I'll see you guys.
accountable.
Poor little guy.
You never responded to the fascism thing. Never ever.
Or the fact that he thought that
He's got
there's
his
no
heart
leadership
broken.
vote.
Yeah, that's true.
I shouldn't
Well,
laugh. This is serious
think we learned
business.
something.
I'm going to turn
Force the vote equals leverage.
When was it Fanamite? Back when
Matt,
he was.
why are you muting me? I need to turn my camera back on.
Oh God,
How dare
I'm
you.
sorry, people. I know. I am very sorry about that.
I got to,
People are a little mad. Let's go, Jackson, says John
wait, I can't turn my video on.
Microphone specialist, longtime Majority Report member here. I am laughing very hard. Poor Jackson. Awesome possum. That was exhausting. John, let's see. Jen Hexer, please be fucking done. I apologize, folks. I couldn't help it.
God. What a handsome, dopey looking man. God. Oh man. That was painful. That was painful as hell, guys. That was painful as hell. Thank you for joining me for that though.